Paul Kelly was a young man living with his mother and father in Budapest. When he was 7 years old, they immigrated to Britain. However, their legal situation wasn't official. They didn't have proper residency papers. Because of this, they were breaking Britain's residency laws, but no one knew about them. They lived quietly in a rural area. As Paul grew up, he started going to the city often, trying to find a job. He managed to get some simple jobs, like working as a laborer or other small gigs. But Paul had ambition. Over time, he worked in many places like supermarkets and similar stores. One day, though, a security guard got suspicious of Paul and asked to see his ID. Paul panicked and ran away immediately, sprinting to escape the guard. A chase began through streets and between houses until they finally caught him. When they caught him, they discovered he was violating residency laws. They also found out he had issues with paying taxes and other illegal activities. In the end, he was sent to trial and sentenced to 3 years in prison. While in jail, this was the start of Paul getting to know real criminals, people involved in drugs, theft, murder, and more. He spent those 3 years locked up with them, trying to adapt to the environment. After Paul finished his sentence and was released, he had to check in with the police regularly. Every week, he'd go to the station, sign in, and they'd ask about his situation. Had he applied for residency? Was he becoming a good member of society? He had to keep doing this for a long time after leaving prison. At the police station, he met an inspector named Lisa, who was in charge of his case. Lisa was a beautiful young woman from a well-known family in Britain. Besides her job at the police station, she owned a big women's salon where lots of workers were employed. Over time, Lisa started to feel something for Paul, and Paul liked her too, though he thought it was impossible for anything to happen between them. He never imagined a girl like her could be interested in him. But because he had to see her so often, she began to sympathize with him. She saw how hard it was for him to get residency and fix his situation. He was at risk of being deported. One day, Lisa said to him, "Listen, I own a salon, and I can give you a proper job there. I can help you with your papers so you can get residency. I need a representative, someone to buy supplies for the salon like beauty products and things like that." Paul replied, "Sure, whatever you want, I'm ready." He even said, "I'd work for you without a salary." She laughed and said, "No, no, no. You'll get a salary, I'll provide you with housing, and I'll give you a company car from the salon. You just need to work honestly. But you'll be on a trial period for a few months. Can I trust you?" He said, "Trust me, I'm ready." And so, Paul started working for her, and he excelled at his job. One day, he asked her, "Why do you buy such huge amounts of products from this supplier at crazy prices? Since you use so much, we could import them from somewhere else. You'd save a lot of money, and that would add to the salon's profits." Lisa said, "Okay, I don't mind that." And he was right, her business improved because of his idea. The thing is, Lisa wasn't really that focused on the salon or the work itself. Her family liked Paul, but she wanted to test him. Was he honest? Did he deserve someone to love and support him? Over time, Paul won her heart. He proved he could handle responsibility. She fell deeply in love with him, and she felt he was someone she could accept. Slowly, he opened up to her. She said, "Listen, Paul, I'm a girl who doesn't lack anything. I have property and I'm still young. I could have been with anyone a long time ago. Lots of people have offered me relationships. But I don't want any relationship with a man unless it's through sacred marriage. I don't like casual, disrespectful relationships. I want to get married, build a family, and have kids. Paul said, "That's exactly what I want too. I'm ready to marry you right now." She asked, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes." And so Lisa married Paul. After they got married, Paul's life turned upside down. Lisa said to him, "Listen, from today, you're not working at my salon anymore. You're my husband now. It's not right for you to be an employee. Out of respect for you, I don't want to be the one giving you orders, and I don't want you working in a salon full of women. I've been thinking about a project for a while, and I have the money for it. I'll set everything up for you." Paul asked, "What is it?" She said, "We'll start a limousine company, like a taxi service, but with luxury cars to transport important people from airports, hotels, and so on. I have connections for my job and personal life to make it work." Paul said, "Okay, let's do it. I'm in." They launched the business, and Paul became the manager of the company. It started making huge profits, and they expanded. They opened branches at the airport, hotels, and big companies. They signed contracts with government agencies and bought tons of cars because there was so much demand. At that time, the idea was new and fresh. Paul was swimming in money. You'd think he'd thank God and protect this blessing, right? No, Paul started to go astray. He noticed Lisa was busy with her police job, working long hours, so he thought he could mess around without her knowing. He began staying out late, meeting the kinds of people who rented his luxury cars, rich clients, and partying with them. That's when he met a Lithuanian girl named Moki. She was from Lithuania, a country in Northern Europe near the Baltic region. Moki was stunningly beautiful, and Paul was drawn to her the moment he saw her. But unlike Lisa, Moki wasn't respectable. She was a party girl into clubs, drinking, and trouble. Paul fell for her anyway and started spending huge amounts of money on her to win her over. He paid for drinks, drugs, gifts, everything, without caring that Lisa might find out one day. As time went on, Moki and Paul got into a relationship. He even told her to stop going to clubs because he got jealous of the men they're hitting on her. She didn't mind them, though it was her job. But Paul said, "Why are you jealous? I'll pay you whatever you make there." She said, "Fine, but first buy me a car." He bought her a car. Then she said, "Get me a fancy apartment." He said, "Done." He started giving her big monthly payments, all while Lisa had no idea. After a while, Moki said, "Let's travel. I want to see the world." Paul said, "I can't. If I travel, Lisa will suspect something. She'll ask where I'm going. Please, let's delay this." But Moki wasn't happy. She said, "I love traveling and shopping, and you're not giving me that. So many businessmen have offered me things, and I left them for you." Paul panicked. How could he make it up to her? He put it off, trying to figure out a way to handle Lisa. Years passed, from 2001 to 2006, and Lisa hadn't gotten pregnant. Paul didn't want her to. He didn't want kids or responsibility. He just wanted to have fun and live freely. To him, marrying Lisa was more about convenience than love. He didn't want to be tied down forever with kids. But Lisa didn't know this. She thought they were just waiting for the right time. She confronted him one day, "Why don't you want us to have kids?" He'd say, "Later, just wait a bit." Let's build ourselves up first. She'd reply, build what? We have property, a business, everything. Who are we saving this for? I'm getting older. Do you love me or not? He'd say, of course I love you. She'd ask, then what's stopping us? He'd brush it off with, okay, fine. But deep down, he worried that if Lisa got mad and left him, he'd lose everything. All the companies and money were in her name. She didn't check the details, but if she got upset, she might start digging. Where's the money going? Why are profits down? She could discover his cheating, and he'd be ruined. So, he started thinking about getting rid of Lisa. First, he suggested they get life insurance. You know how life insurance has led to so many murders? Someone insures their spouse, and if they die, they get a huge payout, like $500,000 or $1 million, depending on the plan. Greed takes over, and they plan a killing. That's what Paul was thinking. But he had to do it without getting caught, otherwise, he'd get nothing and end up in jail. He remembered his prison days and the criminals he met, murderers, thieves, attackers. He contacted 3 guys he knew from back then who'd been released. He told them, I've insured my wife and myself. I want someone to kill her in a way that no one can trace it back to me. They said, okay, but you pay. He agreed. They settled on a price. And they picked a day to break into the house and kill Lisa. Paul made sure he'd be out with friends as witnesses, so he'd have an alibi. On the planned day, the 3 guys showed up with 2 others, 5 in total, armed with weapons. Paul had told them when Lisa would be home, tired from work, showering or eating, unaware of anything. But Lisa wasn't just anyone. She was a trained police inspector with sharp instincts. While she was in the house, she sensed something strange. These 5 men trying to break in. Paul had told them to smash the door or window so it'd look like a random break-in during the investigation, not someone with a key. Lisa noticed them, grabbed her gun, and started shooting. She turned the tables on them. When they saw her firing, she hit one of them and damaged their car. They panicked and ran for their lives. She called the police, they took fingerprints, and an investigation began. Paul came home acting shocked. What happened? Oh, my love. Thank God you're okay. He pretended he knew nothing. No one suspected him, and the incident was brushed off as a possible robbery. Lisa wondered what they wanted but couldn't figure it out. Time passed and Paul thought, no, this amateur thief stuff won't work. I need a real professional hitman who can do it quietly. He found a guy named Johnson, a seasoned killer serving a life sentence. Paul visited him in prison, saying, just checking on you. Johnson wasn't fooled. No one comes back to visit old prison buddies unless they want something. What is it? Paul said, honestly, I need you to find me a pro hitman. You deal with him. I don't want him to know me. I need my wife dead. Whatever you want paid, I'll do it. Johnson said, give me a few days. I'll find someone outside to handle it. Paul warned him, my wife's a police inspector. She's armed and skilled. Someone tried to break in before, and they failed. I need someone who can take her. Johnson said, don't worry, I've got just the guy, Leslie. Leslie was a cold-blooded pro. All he cared about was money. They agreed on a price. Paul paid through Johnson and they set a date. Paul made sure he'd be with friends again for an alibi. He told Johnson, no guns too loud. Make it quiet so no one notices. Johnson said, Leslie's a knife guy. No problem. On the day, Paul left the house. Leslie sneaked in through the window while Lisa was asleep. But Lisa, sharp as ever, sensed him. As he lunged at her on the bed, she rolled off like a snake, and a fight broke out. Leslie had a knife. Lisa was unarmed. She grabbed furniture, swung at him, kicked him, anything to fight back. He stabbed at her, but she used her legs to defend herself. Leslie, ruthless, stabbed her thigh, slicing a major artery. He stepped out, shut the door, and held it closed, waiting for her to bleed out. After 20 seconds, he went back in. Lisa was on the floor, losing consciousness. He finished her off with fatal stabs, wiped his prints, and left signs of a break-in through the window. A neighbor heard screams and crashing but didn't think much at first. When it went on, she looked out and saw a masked man in black fleeing to a car. She rang Lisa's doorbell, no answer. She called the police, saying, "I know Lisa, the cop. Someone just jumped out her window." The police stormed in and found Lisa brutally stabbed. A neighbor called Paul, who was with friends. "Paul, your wife's been murdered." He rushed home, crying hysterically, caught on TV news covering the crime. Everyone pitied him. No evidence pointed to him. He'd covered his tracks by using Johnson as a middleman. The case went cold, labeled unknown suspect. Paul collected the insurance money plus Lisa's wealth, companies, everything. He told Moki, "Let's go. I'll take you around the world." He took her to Spain, Egypt. She even saw the pyramids. He blew all the money on her. But the police never fully closed Lisa's case. They'd planned to fake it, announce it as unsolved, let the killer relax and watch suspects, including Paul, especially after learning about the insurance. It wasn't proof, but it was suspicious timing. Digging deeper, they found out about Moki. Hotel staff confirmed Paul knew her while Lisa was alive. He'd been cheating. They learned he'd been poor before Lisa lifted him up, gave him a business, and made him rich. And he'd betrayed her. A shop owner near Lisa's house, curious after her murder, checked his security footage from that day. His shop was 200 to 300 meters away, too far to see the house clearly. But a car had driven from Lisa's direction toward his shop right after the crime. The camera caught its plate, an Audi, driven by a masked man. Ecstatic, the owner took the video to the police. They traced the plate to Leslie, a known criminal. Why was he there? They arrested him, found a knife in his car, and tests matched the blood to Lisa's. Leslie confessed, saying, "Johnson hired me through prison. I thought it was personal. Maybe she got him locked up." They confronted Johnson. At first, he denied it, but under pressure, already serving life, he cracked. "Fine, it was her husband, Paul. He was in jail with me years ago. He paid me to arrange it." Bank records showed Paul's payment. They arrested Paul, showed him the evidence, and he confessed. It shocked Britain's media. Everyone had seen him sobbing on TV, begging for justice. No one suspected him. He got 17 years for orchestrating the murder. Leslie was sentenced to death. And that's the end of our story. Stay safe. I will see you in the next time.